Hi guys, Harry here, and welcome to my breakdown of the Power of the Doctor episode. Now, of course, spoiler warning for the Power of the Doctor episode, because of course this is going to be a breakdown, and of course my thoughts on the Power of the Doctor. And also I do have a video just going out of my raw thoughts on the Power of the Doctor episode that I will link up in the cards above. But before we get into this video, don't forget to subscribe, also leave a like and comment down below, and let's get into the video. So the episode starts with Cybermasters that we last saw in The Timeless Children hijacking a train in space, and the last time we saw a train in space was in the episode Mummy on the Orient Express. That was back in Series 8. And the Cybermasters have blocked the TARDIS from being able to enter onto the train, so that is why the Doctor, Yaz and Dan enter onto the train from the outside. Of course, using the orange spacesuits that have been seen many times in Doctor Who. And it turns out the Cybermasters are after this cargo, which it turns out to be a child. And then just before the Cybermasters steal this child, the Doctor says, "Don't worry, you're gonna be safe." And the Cybermaster says, "The Doctor lies," which is a reference to the 11th Doctor's first rule, which was, of course, the Doctor lies. So the Doctor, Yaz and Dan save all the people on this ship apart from the child, which the Cybermasters steal. However, during this helping all these people, Dan gets shot in the face, breaking his spacesuit's helmet by the Cybermasters. And this is what causes Dan to leave the TARDIS. He leaves it in the first 12 minutes, and I mean, it was just a shock to see Dan go. But what, Chibnall didn't have anything planned for him? It's like, this is a big problem. He has too many companions, and then he has, well, nothing for one of them to do. It's just insane. I mean, why was Dan even in the episode? Or give Dan a lot to do that you gave to Tegan or Ace or Graham. Even Graham turns up in this episode. Give that stuff to Dan. I mean, he is one of the main companions. So Dan decides to stay on Earth, and where the Doctor drops him off is right outside his house, which is still shrunk from Carvanista, who shrunk it in the Halloween apocalypse back in Flux. Obviously wasn't resized, and the Doctor doesn't, I mean, the Doctor maybe can't resize his house, but doesn't resize his house, and also doesn't say goodbye to him. But this is because the Doctor hates goodbyes. Most notably in the 12th Doctor's era, River Song says it a lot, that he just doesn't like goodbyes. That's why the Doctor will never say it. Again, this is just a lot of parallels to, most notably, again, the 11th Doctor, who doesn't like to say goodbye. So the Doctor is in her TARDIS, and she's sadly thinking about, of course, Dan leaving, and then a Dalek hologram enters the TARDIS, and the Dalek says that he wants to help the Doctor destroy the Daleks. And the Doctor acts like this is the first time that this has ever happened, but it isn't. Back in Into the Dalek, there was a Dalek that the Doctor named Rusty that went on a crusade to destroy all Daleks, and he turned up again in Twice Upon a Time. So the Doctor has met a Dalek that would want to destroy all Daleks, not once, but twice. Of course, this isn't the first time, then, that a Dalek has wanted to destroy all other Daleks. And when this hologram Dalek is telling the Doctor that he wants her help to destroy all the Daleks, he references the Kaleds, a species on Skaro that Davros was, and also Davros kind of used their DNA to create the Daleks. So the Kaleds are the Daleks' ancestors. And it always seemed like the Dalek mission was for the Daleks to survive. But through this Dalek, we learn that the Dalek mission is actually the survival of the Khaled race. That's what Davros programmed into them. And it's just so cool that it's not the Daleks, it's the Khaleds is what they are protecting. But the Daleks leaves as Yaz enters, and the Doctor sees that there is a planet in the shadow of Earth. And that is what moves into what we now see as the Master. So, as we know, the Master was hiding in 1916 Earth under the guise of Rasputin. So he has gained all the power and wealth that Rasputin had, and of course Rasputin was close friends with Tsar Nicholas, of course, the royal family in Russia, the king of Russia, and the master is called by the Tsarina, his wife. Of course, Tsar is a lot like Caesar, the Roman leader, and that's why, of course, their name is Tsar. Just a bit of real-world history there for you. Also, I don't know if you can hear a noise. That's my dog. He's in the corner of the room, and he's asleep, and he's just too cute to wake up. So sorry about the noise. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but if you can, that's just the noise there. But back to the episode. And the reason that the master is called by the Tsarina is that her son is ill, and, obviously the Tsarina wants her son saved more than anything. However, it's revealed when he gets to their palace in Russia that the Tsarina has noticed the planet in the sky, and it is revealed that the Tsar and the Tsarina know that Rasputin is the master, and it seems like he has hypnotized them, because they say that they will do his bidding, and this is insane. Of course, the master has always been hypnotic, mostly known in the classic era, but more recently, the Johnson master controlled 89% of the population into voting for him to be the Prime Minister when he was Harold Saxon. So the Doctor and Yaz then appear on this other planet, and of course it is in the same time as 1916, of course by the Tsarina noticing that there is another planet in the sky. And on this other planet, they see two big things. First of all, they see another TARDIS, which is revealed to be the Master's TARDIS, and they see the child, but the child is revealed to be an energy source, and not only that, is an alien called the Korax, which is basically an energy source, as explained in the episode. And the planet is revealed to be a place for cyber conversion, and also it's not just cyber conversion. There is also it is also what makes the Doctor force regenerate later in the episode. But then we go back to present-day Earth and we see Ace, and she notices that paintings have started to disappear. And she goes on the phone to Tegan, who notices that seismologists have started to disappear. And Tegan receives a Russian doll a Russian doll Cyberman that she thinks is from the Doctor, but is actually from the Master. And of course, this is a reference to Ashad, who was shrunk by the Master back in The Timeless Children. And it is revealed, of course, that he's back, but he isn't this tiny Cyberman figurine. He is actually being cloned by the Master, and he will play a bigger role later in the episode. The Doctor and Yaz are then called to this present-day setting in UNIT by Kate Stewart, who was last seen in The Vanquishers, and seems like she's got UNIT back up and running and under her control from when it was usurped from her by the Grand Serpent. And the Doctor and Yaz see Tegan and Ace, and of course it has been years since the Doctor has seen them, and you can see this actually in Jodie Whittaker's acting. She does a great job of how seeing Tegan and Ace really tears her up inside. And of course, it's heartbreaking for her to see them back, especially when Yaz is standing there right next to her. And this is made even worse by the fact that Tegan is mad at the Doctor, saying 38 years since she left the Doctor and the Doctor hasn't got in touch with her since. And it is actually 38 years since Resurrection of the Daleks, which was the episode that Tegan left for good. However, there is a bright side. Ace isn't that mad with the Doctor and calls the Doctor Professor, which is what she always called the Seventh Doctor instead of Doctor. So Kate has been looking into the things that Ace and Tegan have brought to them, of course the paintings and the seismologists, because she knows that they were the Doctor's previous companions. And if they were mentioning something, it would be something real. And it is revealed that the paintings have been defaced with the face of the Rasputin Master, and he actually covers the faces on the paintings. It's not just like his face superimposed onto a painting. It's actually in the faces of all the people on the painting. Well, one person on the painting. I just think that's a cool detail though, that is actually on the people's faces in the paintings. The Master then sends a transmission to them talking about how he's got all the seismologists at this place, and the Doctor and Yaz have to go to him and track him down, which they do. But the Master sending them a transmission is kind of like Missy back in the Witch's Familiar when they didn't know where the Doctor was, and Missy was the only one that could help them. Anyway, Yaz and the Doctor track down the Master, and it is revealed that he has shrunk all the seismologists. And again, he's got the tissue compressor eliminator, the TCE, of course, which he used back in the Timeless Children, and this Master has used it quite a lot. It was mostly in the classic era. We never saw the John Sim Master use it or Missy use it, but of course Sacha Dhawan, his Master, has used it a lot. But of course the Doctor and Yaz didn't go to face the Master alone, so UNIT turn up and it's obvious he wants to be captured. I mean, come on, he says, "Oh, please tell me I'm going to UNIT. I want to go to UNIT." So why do they take him to UNIT? It is obvious. Have they never watched The Avengers? Or even before, this is a reference to Missy's plan, which was to be captured by UNIT in Death in Heaven. And yet they fall for it again. Why? I mean, this has happened to you before in that universe. Why do you fall for it again? It's so obvious that his Master, I'm sorry to say this, so put your pitchforks away, but his Master is so over the top. And I am glad, really, that this is his Master gone. Sacha Dhawan, you started out strong, and then for me you just went downhill. I mean, this episode just solidified it for me, and I know a lot of people like his Master, but for me, he was just an over-the-top version of the John Sim Master. However, this episode does do a good job of writing how scared the Doctor is of the Master, as she wants Yaz to have a gun, which, of course, the Doctor hates guns, which the Master does say in that episode that the Doctor hates guns, and she wants to transport the Master herself in the TARDIS to UNIT. And the Master says that he's ingested the Cyberium, which, of course, we last saw in Series 12. And that could be explaining how he can control not just the Cyber Masters, but also the Cybermen, and also maybe even the Daleks as well, as, of course, the Cyberium shows him how the Cybermen can win all the wars. So maybe that's how he controls the Cybermen and the Cyber Masters in this episode, as well as the Daleks too. So the Doctor, Yaz and the Master arrive at UNIT, and a bunch of references are dropped here. The Master references Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, of course saying to Kate, "Your dad was an idiot." Of course, Kate Stewart, her dad was the Brigadier. The Master also references killing Tegan's Aunt Vanessa with the TCE back in Logopolis, and he was the Anthony Ainley Master at this point. Also, when he encountered Ace, he was also the Anthony Ainley Master, and he references Ace's real name, which is, of course, Dorothy. And he also says that, "Didn't you two fall out when the Doctor was being a Machiavellian maestro," referencing the Doctor tricking Ace and kind of turning her against him in The Curse of Fenric. And, of course, Ace then makes a reference to the Master, saying that "you were half cat last time I saw you," which is, of course, referencing Survival, which was the final serial in Classic Who, and this was where he was working with the cheetah people, and he started to become like them, and he was starting to become, of course, cat-like. And then the Doctor and Yaz leave Tegan, Ace, and Kate to go and track down the Dalek, and the Cyberman Russian doll comes into play, with the Master sending a transmission to Tegan and Ace that the Cyberman Russian doll that he left Ace was actually a real Cyberman Russian doll, and he reverses the tissue compressor and lets a lot of Cybermen out. And here he states that Ashad, he killed him once, which is of course referencing to the Timeless Children when he shrunk him, but he cloned him and he's now working for the Master. However, Tegan and Ace came prepared for if any of the Cybermen or Cybermasters made their way into UNIT, and they fire gold bullets. They have these guns that fire gold bullets, but they are unaffected. The Cybermen are unaffected But the last time we saw Goldwork was in 2013's Nightmare in Silver on a cyber planner. So Ashad, I don't think it was that long ago. It was only, that was 9 years ago. I feel a bit old now. That was the last time we saw Goldwork, and we're almost at, that was the year of the 50th, and we're almost at the 60th. That is insane to me. However, of course, back to the episode, Tegan and Ace run into trouble, and Ace shouts, "Run" to Tegan, like the Doctor always shouts, "Run," most notably the 10th Doctor. And of course, the Master tells them to run as well, and this is like the John Sim Master inside of the drums, where he told the Doctor, Martha and Jack to run. So the Doctor and Yaz go to this volcano to track down the Dalek that was going to give this information to the Doctor on how to destroy the Daleks. However, they are captured, the Doctor and this Dalek, and the Dalek is killed, and the Daleks force the Doctor into the Dalek casing. Now, maybe this is a reference to Clara being forced inside a Dalek casing, like Missy did to her back in The Witch's Familiar. And then we see Yaz find out that, of course, the Daleks have their big master plan, and we see her fly the TARDIS, and the only other companion that we've seen do this is Clara. And this wasn't even in the Doctor's TARDIS. This was like in her diner TARDIS that we saw back in Heaven Sent. So it's just weird that Yaz can fly the TARDIS when no other companion can. The Master then reveals that he will make the Doctor undergo a forced regeneration, using the other planet as energy to do so. So it's not just a cyber conversion planet, it is also a regeneration kind of conversion planet to get the Doctor to force regenerate into the Master. And the last time we saw a forced regeneration was back in the Second Doctor era in the War Games, where the Time Lords forced him to regenerate into Jon Pertwee. And the reason I stick by the fact earlier that I said in the episode that this Master is just an over-the-top version of the John Sim Master is that the Master then dances to Rah Rah Rasputin. And this is a reference to John Sim's Master dancing to his playlist in The Sound of the Drums and Last of the Time Lords. However, this is just so cringy. He hasn't really won yet. At that point, the John Sim Master thought he had won 100%. And it's just so cringy. Even the Daleks and the Cybermen look at each other like, why is this happening? And in the first draft I did in like a kind of writing down all these references, I said that this is almost as cringy as emo Peter Parker dancing in Spider-Man 3. And I took that out, but I still think it is that cringy, or almost that cringy. It is so bad, and even the Daleks and the Cybermen know it in that episode. However, then the Doctor gets forced into this regeneration pod, and the Doctor regenerates into the Master. But when the Doctor is forced to regenerate into the Master, after it is all done, the Doctor still acts exactly like the Master. And that isn't how forced regeneration works, as far as I know. Because even when the second Doctor regenerated into the third Doctor, sure, the third Doctor was a bit selfish at first. He just wanted to get off Earth and go on with his life. But he was still the Doctor. This is literally just the Master. So, does this even count into regeneration? Or because Jodie got deregenerated from the Master, does this not count into the Time Lord cycle? I mean, we're only having David Tennant for 3 specials. Does this count into the Time Lord cycle? I mean, it is revealed that Ncuti is the 15th Doctor, so David must be the 14th Doctor. I mean, how long before the Doctor needs another regeneration cycle again? Because we never got resolved on the Timeless Child, so all we know is that the Doctor has just had a new regeneration cycle since Matt Smith regenerated. But it seems like they're going through regenerations fast. And also, what happened with the Rasputin body? It is still there, but lifeless. Like, what happened to it? Should it have just disintegrated when the Master left it? I mean, I don't really know what happened with that body. It's just insane, because next time we see the Master in that body, the Doctor says that he is dying because he force regenerated the Doctor into the Master. It's just so weird. But then we go back to Unit, and it is revealed that Kate is locking down Unit because of the Cybermen obviously escaping, and Ace and Tegan are planning to parachute off the roof. Ace also stashed her Ace jacket and her baseball bat, that of course is from the classic era, and Ace says that Beyonce copied all her moves. Of course, Beyonce had a song back in 2016 called Hold Up, and she had a music video of the same name in which she destroyed cars and security cameras with a baseball bat. However, when Tegan and Ace get to the roof, Tegan decides to stay behind in the building because she feels like it is her fault as she brought the Cyberman Russian doll in, and Ace tries to stop her, but of course, this is when the building gets locked down and they get separated. So Tegan decides to stay in and help Kate, and Ace decides to parachute out. And then we go back to the Master, and he breathes out regeneration like all the past Doctors post-regeneration. And then Yaz turns up, and of course she was there to save the 13th Doctor, but she is too late. And the Master says that, of course, he is the Doctor now, and he will kill her if, of course, she doesn't let the Master have the TARDIS. And not just that, the Master says that the name Doctor will mean fear and destruction when he's done with it, which is of course a reference to the Doctor making the word Doctor mean healer and wise man that was revealed back in A Good Man Goes to War by River Song. Also, something disgusting, we can see the Master visually spit at Yaz when he shouts at her. And that is just disgusting. I mean, even if COVID is over, which I don't think it is, there is still cold and flu season out here, Master. Another reason why the Sacha Dhawan Master sucks. The Master then changes clothes, which consists of the 4th Doctor's scarf, the 5th Doctor's stick of celery, the 7th Doctor's shirt, tie and jumper, and either the 1st, 2nd or 7th Doctor's trousers, and also the 13th Doctor's coats, and maybe even her boots. Just a jumble of all the Doctor's clothes. And actually, that outfit kind of goes together, so that just shows how the Doctor is all the same person throughout their incarnations, that their clothes can just go together as well. But then Yaz has had enough, and she pushes the Master out from the TARDIS, and then, of course, flies off in the TARDIS. And this causes the Master to just be like, oh, she'll be back. And while he's waiting for Yaz to return, he plays the 2nd Doctor's recorder, which he also has. And then we go back to the 13th Doctor, where she's in kind of like this Time Lord afterlife. It's kind of unclear, where she meets the 1st Doctor, played by David Bradley, who we last saw in Twice Upon a Time. And it's just insane to have him back. David Bradley looks a lot like William Hartnell and does his mannerisms so well. It's just so good to see him back. And then we see Colin Baker's 6th Doctor, Peter Davidson's 5th Doctor, Paul McGann's 8th Doctor, and Sylvester McCoy's 7th Doctor. Again, I still feel so great to see them back. And they're all wearing these black and red robes that kind of look like Time Lord-y a bit, but not quite. However, the 8th Doctor is not wearing these black and red robes, which the episode calls out as the 8th Doctor and the 7th Doctor have a discussion about the 8th Doctor not wearing these robes. And the 8th Doctor, maybe a reason why he doesn't wear these robes was because he was the only Doctor who, when he had obviously his time in the TARDIS, it was under an American production. So maybe that's why he doesn't have these black and red robes, because he's like kind of the black sheep of the Doctor Who family. Like he's kind of the most different Doctor. And it's not just the 8th Doctor's outfit that is different. The 13th Doctor is not wearing her usual cream coat. She is wearing a different variation of it. She's wearing a black coat, and on the inside, the cream is on the inside, but that is the coat that Time wore in The Vanquishers. She wore a black coat with cream on the inside, and this Doctor, of course, the 13th Doctor, is wearing, well, the coat that Time wore. However, all these Doctors rally the 13th Doctor into, obviously, not giving up, and just as the Doctor starts to get hope and into not giving up, all these other doctors disappear. And then we go back to Yaz, and she's piloting the TARDIS, and the 13th Doctor's hologram pops up, looking very much parting of the ways when the 9th Doctor sent a hologram to Rose. And even what they say at the start is very similar.
This is Emergency Program 1. Rose, now listen, this is important. If this message is activated, then it can only mean one thing. We must be in danger, and I mean fatal. I'm dead or about to die any second with no chance of escape.
If you're seeing this, I'm dead.
And of course, this is all to help with the 13th Doctor. Obviously, this hologram Doctor has reacted because the 13th Doctor is dead. So, Yaz is piloting the TARDIS to Vinder, who we see last returning from the Flux, last seen in The Vanquishers, and he has been tracking down the Corex. And he noticed that the TARDIS on this planet was the Master's, and he tries to get in contact with the TARDIS with a phone that the Doctor left him, and Yaz, of course, went there because this transmission came through, so she has gone there to this planet to pick up Vinder. Another person Yaz has gone to pick up is Ace, which has parachuted off the roof, and Yaz catches her in the TARDIS. Now, maybe this is a reference to River Song jumping off the building to escape the silence back in Day of the Moon. And Yaz says to Ace, can you perhaps go to these volcanoes and blow up the Daleks? And Ace says her catchphrase, wicked, which is, of course, from the classic era. However, of course, Yaz and Vinder want the real Doctor back, so Yaz goes to the Master to pick him back up. So then we go back to Unit, and the Hollow Doctor meets Ace, and as she is talking, the Hollow Doctor changes to the 5th Doctor, and they have a really nice heart-to-heart. The Hollow Doctor says that he remembers Tegan, and not just Tegan, he remembers everyone, and that's maybe a reference to the 10th Doctor when he talks to Sarah Jane back in School Reunion, and the 11th Doctor when he talks to Sarah Jane and Jo Grant back in the Sarah Jane Adventures episode, Death of the Doctor. And the 5th Doctor carries on with this theme that he remembers everyone because he references Adric, which was a 5th Doctor companion who died due to a Cyberman, while Tegan was also a companion, and he knows what Tegan is thinking. She's thinking of Adric. And also the 5th Doctor references Braveheart, which the 5th Doctor always said to Tegan. And then after that nice heart-to-heart, Tegan and the Hollow Doctor both admit that they miss each other and they make up. And then we visit Ace, and the Hollow Doctor comes to her, and they have a nice heart-to-heart too. It is revealed that Ace is planning to blow up the Daleks with Nitro 9, or in this episode, Nitro 999, an explosive that Ace created, and of course, Ace wants to blow up the Dalek and their weaponry, and the fuse is, in the classic era, was 8 seconds, although in this episode, one of the cans was mentioned that it blew up too early on that Dalek, like in the classic era, where some of the cans wouldn't hold out for 8 seconds. And when the Hollow Doctor comes to Ace, of course, again, it changes to the 7th Doctor, which of course was the Doctor of Ace, and as he changes, it says it's never fine to blow stuff up. And of course, in the 7th Doctor's era, it got a bit more violent. He was more prone to blowing stuff up. And that started kind of in the 6th Doctor's era and went into the 7th. So of course, the Hollow 7th Doctor and Ace are having this nice heart-to-heart. And the 7th Doctor says, all children leave home sooner or later. The joy is to watch them fly. And this is like the Doctor with all his companions. They always leave him at some point. But the Doctor couldn't be more happy with what they become. And he just is like the Doctor is a parent and all the companions are his children. And he couldn't be more happy when he sees what they become. And also the 7th Doctor gives Ace her moment, saying, we're Ace. And then we see Graham O'Brien turn up, who we last saw in Revolution of the Daleks. And it's just insane still to see him turn up. Although, why did he just turn up in the volcano? I mean, I doubt that Graham could take on all these Daleks. Ace brought the Nitro 999, so... But anyway, it's still great to see Graham O'Brien return, and Ace drops a line to him of, "Want to see how I dealt with them," of course the Daleks, "in 1963, which was of course a reference to Remembrance of the Daleks, which was an episode which was a reference to Doctor Who in itself, because it went back to the time when the first ever episode of Doctor Who aired, An Unearthly Child, which is of course a massive big reference. And then we go back to UNIT, and Kate makes a deal with the Cybermasters and Ashad to sacrifice herself in exchange for the UNIT officer's safety. However, she deactivates what would have killed the Cybermen, if they had tried to get to her, and she just takes their word that they will let the UNIT officers go. Kate, why would you take Cybermen's word that they would just let them go safely? We don't even see that happen, and when Kate and Tegan escape from the Cybermen and the building blows up, we don't see any other UNIT officers get out safely. We just see Tegan and Ace run out safely. So Kate kind of almost sacrificed herself for nothing. So Kate is brought to Cyberman conversion, and we see the Cybermen starting her conversion. And that's not just it for big things. The Master puts the volcanoes into eruption, and everything is going badly. Of course, the Cybermen have taken control of UNIT, the Daleks have started the volcanoes into eruption, and the Master is in the Doctor's body. But then we see the fugitive Doctor walk in, last seen in Once Upon a Time back in Flux, and of course, it's just amazing to see her back. And the Master says to the Cybermasters, "Fire," at the fugitive Doctor. However, it's revealed that they are a hologram, and they each shoot themselves, which maybe is a reference to Blink, where the Weeping Angels were defeated by the fact that they were tricked into looking at each other, just like how these Cybermasters were tricked into shooting at each other. However, Yaz shouldn't know who the fugitive Doctor is, because the episode even says this, as Yaz says, "You were a tour guide in Gloucester last time I saw you," but it's revealed that she now knows that the Doctor has another... Well, she already knew that the Doctor had another life, but this is the first time she sees a face from that other life. However, the Master was still not getting that pod, so Vinder shoots him. The Master at first doesn't think Vinder will shoot him because, of course, Vinder's with the Doctor. But maybe this is a reference to the Big Bang, where the Dalek said that River wouldn't shoot it. And then River said, "Check again, I'm River Song." And, of course, shot the Dalek. So Yaz and Vinder shove the Master back into the regeneration chamber and use the Cybermaster's regeneration energy to power the regeneration machine and force degenerate the Doctor degenerate the Master back into the Doctor. And then we go back to UNIT, and I know I seem to be jumping around a lot, but the episode did this. Then Kate almost gets converted into a Cyberman, but with Tegan's help, the Hollow Doctor stops it and, turns it on the Cybermen, killing them. And then we go back to the Doctor, and the Doctor picks Ace and Graham up from the volcano just as it's about to blow up with all the Daleks, and Graham calls the Doctor Doc, like he always did, back when Graham was a companion. The Doctor then goes to the other planet and arranges everyone in the TARDIS so they can temporal hop the TARDIS and the other planet, of course, to the present day, and arranges everyone to do something, of course, like back in Journey's End, where he arranged everyone so they could fly planet Earth back home in the TARDIS. And there's another little reference here. Kate says, "How is it bigger on the inside?" Of course, referring to the TARDIS, and that's, of course, what all the companions say, is bigger on the inside when they enter the TARDIS. However, the Doctor wants everyone to get home, so the Doctor fixes Vinder's ship so he can get home. And I mean, this Doctor is a fixer, she's an engineer. She did make her own sonic screwdriver, so it's just something worth mentioning that she could easily fix Vinder's ship. And also, the Doctor uses this other planet to freeze all the erupting volcanoes. Somehow, I don't really know. And then she also sets the Corax free. But it's not totally free, as the Master then teleports to his TARDIS and it's revealed that he's dying. But the Quarix is still under his control, and it shoots the Doctor and hits her, causing the Doctor to start her regeneration. Yaz carries her back to the TARDIS, so Yaz must be really strong, just before the planet implodes, and then the Doctor blacks out. It's then revealed that Yaz drops everyone at Croydon, so no big goodbye. I mean, where was the big goodbye to Kate and Tegan and Ace and Graham? I mean, Tegan hasn't seen the Doctor for 38 years, and yet no big goodbye? Why? I mean, anyway, actually, Yaz dropping everyone at Croydon is a reference to where the Fourth Doctor was supposed to drop Sarah Jane Smith when he wanted her to, when she wanted to leave the TARDIS, but he accidentally dropped her off in Aberdeen. The cloister bells then ring, which signals the Doctor's regeneration, and the cloister bells, of course, only ring in serious occasions. However, the Doctor and Yaz have one last heart-to-heart, which is eating ice cream on the top of the TARDIS in space, watching the Earth. And maybe this is a reference to Brian Williams, Rory's dad, eating his sandwiches and drinking his tea while sitting in the TARDIS, watching Earth. However, after that last heart-to-heart, the Doctor drops Yaz back at Earth because he can't put Yaz through watching her change, watching her regenerate. And that is fine because we see Yaz meet up with Graham and Dan, and they go to this group, and it consists of course, Yaz, Graham and Dan, Tegan, Ace and Kate, and then we see three new people, but they're not new. They are classic Who companions. We've got Jo Jones, Mal Bush, and Ian Chesterton. And yes, it's Jo Jones because back in the Sarah Jane Adventures, Death of the Doctor, is revealed that Jo married a Mr. Jones, of course, taking his last name. And of course, in that episode as well, Jo was kind of the second companion in there, and also Sarah Jane mentioned at the end all of these companions, Jo, Ian, as well as others, apart from Mal, and of course Graham, Yaz, and Dan, and of course Kate Stewart. But it's just nice to know that all these companions could come as well, as there is an empty chair there. Now maybe it's just for Ryan, or it could be a modern companion, maybe one of the companions that Sarah Jane mentioned back in the episode Death of the Doctor, or maybe it's a chair for Sarah Jane herself. I know she unfortunately passed away, Elizabeth Sladen, but it could be like her spirit is with them. And then Ian, Mal and Jo are all surprised that the Doctor is now a woman, and it just seems like they're having tons of fun, saying all their adventures with the Doctors to each other. And it's just so nice that there is a group for them now. Even though it's taken to 2022, there is a group for all the Doctor's past companions to come together. And then we go to the final scene of the 13th Doctor regenerating outside the TARDIS. And this, I think, is the first time the Doctor is willing to do that. And the last time we saw the Doctor regenerate outside the TARDIS was the 8th Doctor, regenerating into the War Doctor. This is kind of excluding the first time the 11th Doctor regenerated, but that doesn't really count as he did regenerate into Peter Capaldi in the TARDIS. And now, just before we get to David Tennant, I would like to undergo some criticisms, unfortunately, of this episode. I didn't know where to put them, so I'll just put them before we get to David Tennant. So, unfortunately, we see hardly any Dan. Again, I mentioned this before earlier in the episode, but it was kind of like Dan wasn't important in there. I mean, there was no conclusion to the 13th Doctor and Yaz's relationship, no Phasmin. I know that's disappointing for a lot of people. The biggest thing, I think, was no conclusion to the Timeless Child. The fob watch was not opened. That's a big one. Of course, the humour was mostly terrible in this. Of course, I've got to point to the biggest egression, the Masters Rasputin dance. And the biggest Doctor in this episode was the 10th Doctor, David Tennant, the 14th Doctor. But all the other Doctors seem bigger than Jodie's Doctor. And this is so sad because this is Jodie's Doctor's final episode. It should be her Doctor as the biggest Doctor. Also, how did the Master survive the death particle on Gallifrey? How can Yaz fly the TARDIS? Why did Graham just show up in the volcano that Ace was in? Why was Vinda in the episode? All he did was shoot the Master. That was it. And no goodbye with Tegan, Ace, Kate and Graham. Only Yaz. And no goodbye with Dan either. It's just so bad. And of course, the fugitive Doctor, which we thought was going to tie into the Timeless Child thing, she was so underused. And there wasn't a wrap-up for her story as well. And it feels like we're just on to the next thing. We're on to David Tennant. And the Timeless Child thing will be dropped. And I think it's just a shame. I know it was a big hated thing, and it still is. But we should have had at least a conclusion to it. However, now we move into the big regeneration, which is, of course, Jodie into David, and this is insane. The regeneration energy seems to come from her chest, and like that, this is where David Tennant's clothes grow out of too, so maybe this is something about the Force regeneration. However, female Time Lords do have more control on what they regenerate into, so maybe Jodie kind of did this herself. I don't know, maybe this is the Celestial Toymakers doing, that we'll see. Of course, this is what everyone thinks Neil Patrick Harris will play, and he is the big villain in the 60th anniversary. But 3 specials for David Tennant, which is insane. And of course, there's a lot of references when he regenerates. Of course, the first thing his Doctor notices is his teeth, which was the first thing he noticed when he regenerated from the 9th Doctor. And also he runs his hands down his face like he did at the End of Time Part 2 when he starts to have regeneration energy. And of course it ends in the perfect way with him saying "what" 3 times like he did at the end of Last of the Time Lords when the Titanic crashed into the TARDIS. And it's so great to have him back. 3 episodes, and I will have a breakdown, hopefully coming out tomorrow, on, well, the trailer for the 60th anniversary. Now, let me know down in the comments below if you like this episode. Sorry this video was a long one, but if you liked it, don't forget to leave a like, also subscribe, and share it out. And I will see you in the next one.